Thomas Midgley Jr. was one of the most consequential chemists of the 20th century. He invented leaded gasoline. He co-invented the CFCs used in refrigerators and aerosol sprays. Both inventions would later be linked to widespread environmental and health damage. But in his lifetime, Midgley was celebrated as a genius. By 1944, Midgley was 55 years old and disabled by polio. He'd lost much of the strength in his legs and arms, so getting in and out of bed had become difficult and exhausting. So Midgley did what he always did. He invented something. He built a mechanical harness system, a network of ropes and pulleys attached to his bed, designed to hoist him up and lower him down without needing help from anyone else.
Need some help?
Nah, I'm good.
There was one problem with his invention. On November 2nd, 1944, the ropes tangled around his neck. Unable to free himself with his weakened arms, Thomas Midgley was strangled by the very device he built to make his life easier.
Franz Reichelt was a tailor living in Paris, and in his spare time, he was obsessed with one idea: a wearable parachute suit that could let a person survive a fall from any height. He tested smaller versions by throwing dummies off his fifth-floor apartment. The early tests looked promising.
Baby!
Reichelt became convinced his invention was ready for a real demonstration. On February 4th, 1912, he climbed onto the first deck of the Eiffel Tower, roughly 60 meters up, in front of a crowd of journalists and onlookers. He was wearing his parachute suit. There was one problem with his invention. He had never actually tested it with a real jump, only with dummies. Friends tried to talk him out of it. He refused, insisting he needed to prove it himself. Reichelt stepped off the railing. The suit failed to open. He fell straight down and died on impact in front of the cameras that were there to record his triumph. Horace Lawson Hunley was a Confederate inventor working on something the world hadn't really seen yet: a fully submersible attack submarine designed to sneak beneath enemy ships and destroy them with an explosive charge. His submarine, named the H.L. Hunley after himself, ran on hand-cranked propulsion. A crew of men inside turned a long crankshaft to spin the propeller. The submarine had already sunk twice during testing, killing previous crews. Hunley was undeterred. On October 15th, 1863, he decided to personally command the vessel himself to prove it was safe.
Behold my greatest creation! She is a beauty, isn't she?
There was one problem with his invention. The submarine dove and didn't come back up the way it was supposed to. It sank to the bottom of Charleston Harbor with all 8 men aboard, including Hunley himself, who drowned inside the machine that bore his name.
Henry Smolinski had a dream: a car that could also fly. In the early 1970s, his company, Advanced Vehicle Engineers, took a Ford Pinto and bolted the wings and tail of a small Cessna airplane onto it. He called it the AVE Mizar. The idea was simple: drive to the airport, attach the wings, take off, fly to your destination, then detach the wings and drive away. On September 11th, 1973, Smolinski took the Mizar up for a test flight himself. There was one problem with his invention.
The mounting struts connecting the wings to the car body were never strong enough. Mid-flight, the right wing strut failed and separated from the car. The Mizar dropped out of the sky and crashed. Smolinski died on impact. The flying car never made it to production. William Bullock revolutionized printing in the 1860s. His rotary printing press could print on a continuous roll of paper instead of single sheets, dramatically speeding up newspaper production. It was one of the most important inventions in the history of publishing. In April 1867, Bullock was adjusting one of his presses at a print shop in Philadelphia.
There was one problem with his invention. While trying to kick a drive belt back onto its pulley, his leg got caught in the machine's gears. The press crushed his leg badly. Doctors amputated it days later, but Bullock developed gangrene from the injury. He died from complications about a week after the accident, killed by routine maintenance on the very machine that made him famous.
Sylvester Roper was a mechanic in 1890s Massachusetts who built one of the earliest motorcycles in American history, a steam-powered two-wheeled machine, decades before gas engines took over. On June 1st, 1896, at 73 years old, Roper decided to test his steam motorcycle's top speed on a bicycle racetrack in Cambridge, with a crowd watching him ride laps. There was one problem with his invention. Witnesses say the bike began wobbling violently at high speed. Roper's head dropped and the motorcycle veered off course. He died, likely of a heart attack, while riding the machine he'd spent years building, becoming what many historians consider the first person killed while operating a motor vehicle. Innovation requires sacrifice, but sometimes the cost is the inventor themselves. Which story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the wild files.